It's Monday, March 30th, 2026, and today is National Pencil Day, which is a little surprising when you think about it because pencils might be one of the most quietly useful inventions ever created. No batteries, no charging cable, no software updates. Just a stick of graphite that's been helping people write things down for centuries. Welcome to This Day in History from, wait, that's random. I'm your host, C.L. Burns. On this date in 1842, Dr. Crawford Long performed one of the first recorded surgeries using ether as an anesthetic. Before anesthesia, surgery was an extremely painful experience. Patients were often held down while surgeons worked as quickly as possible. Speed was essential, because the longer a procedure lasted, the more suffering the patient endured. Dr. Long had observed that people inhaling ether at social gatherings, sometimes called ether frolics, seemed temporarily insensitive to pain. Ether is a volatile chemical that can be inhaled as a vapor. When it enters the bloodstream through the lungs, it depresses activity in the central nervous system, reducing pain sensation and consciousness. Dr. Long applied this observation during surgery, allowing a patient to undergo a procedure without feeling the usual pain. This idea, temporarily blocking pain signals, would eventually transform medicine. Within a few decades, anesthesia became a standard part of surgical practices, allowing doctors to perform longer, more precise procedures that would have been impossible before. Sometimes a single innovation changes how medicine works. Other times, a decision changes the physical shape of a country. On March 30th, 1867, the United States formally took possession of the territory of Alaska, purchased from the Russian Empire. The agreement had been negotiated by U.S. Secretary of State William Seward. Russia had controlled Alaska for decades, but found it difficult to defend and expensive to maintain. Selling the territory allowed Russia to gain funds while also strengthening relations with the United States. The price was $7.2 million, which worked out to roughly 2 cents per acre. At the time, many Americans criticized the purchase, calling it Seward's Folly or Seward's Icebox. Critics believed the land was too remote and too cold to be useful. But Alaska later proved to contain vast natural resources, including gold, oil, fisheries, and timber. What looked like an odd purchase in the 1860s eventually became one of the largest territorial acquisitions in U.S. history. Events like that show how decisions made in government can reshape entire regions. But other moments in history reshaped the country in quieter ways. Today in 1870, Texas was officially readmitted into the United States after the Civil War. Following the war, the former Confederate states were required to meet certain conditions before they could regain representation in Congress. This period, known as Reconstruction, involved rebuilding political systems, rewriting state constitutions, and addressing the legal status of formerly enslaved people. Texas had to ratify the 14th Amendment, which guaranteed citizenship and equal protection under the law, before it could rejoin the Union. Once these requirements were met, Texas regained representation in Congress and resumed its place as a fully recognized state within the United States. Reconstruction was a complex and often contentious period, but it marked an important step in the country's effort to rebuild after the Civil War. And while governments and nations were dealing with political reconstruction during the 19th century, someone born on this same day would eventually reshape another world entirely. The world of art. Vincent van Gogh was born on March 30th, 1853 in the Netherlands. Today he is considered one of the most influential painters in modern art, known for works like Starry Night, Sunflowers, and The Bedroom. During his lifetime, Van Gogh struggled financially and personally. He produced more than 2,000 artworks, including around 900 paintings, yet sold very few during his lifetime. Van Gogh's style used bold colors, dramatic brushstrokes, and emotional intensity that differed from many traditional painting styles of the time. His work later became a major influence on modern art movements such as Expressionism and Post-Impressionism. It is one of those cases where an artist's impact becomes clear only after their lifetime. Looking at these moments together, a pattern begins to appear. A medical discovery changes how doctors treat pain. A territorial purchase reshapes the map of a country. And a painter introduces a new way of seeing the world through art. Different fields, different kinds of change. But each one reminds us that small decisions or discoveries can influence the future in ways people don't always recognize right away. Anyway, those are a few of the things I ended up discovering while wandering through March 30th. Stop by tomorrow and we'll see what other strange corners of history the next date decides to show us. If you want to know more about me or the work I do, you can find everything at waitthat'srandom.com. I'm C.L. Burns, and I appreciate you stopping by.